Hi guys, this is Blood on the River, chapter 22. Captain Smith, you shall find Powhatan to use you kindly, but trust him not, for he hath sent for you only to cut your throats. That was written by the chief of the Wereskiaks and was quoted by William Simmons in the proceedings. Things are getting heated. Our trouble starts when winter sets in. If we had more skilled farmers and hunters, and if we all worked at farming and hunting, we might be able to produce enough food to get us through the winter. But as it is, our men are kept busy searching for gold, digging sassafras, and making clapboard, glass, pitch, tar, and soap ashes to ship back to England, in the hopes that something in the lot will make a profit for the Virginia Company. And to make things worse, when Captain Newport leaves in December, he takes a lot of our food stores with him, saying he and his sailors will need them for the long voyage home. At least he takes Captain Ratcliffe as well and rids us of him. When our barrels are close to empty, Captain Smith goes to trade with the natives for grain, but he comes back empty-handed. Chief Powhatan has commanded all of his tribes not to trade with us. He's wielding his power, says Captain Smith. He is showing us that the crowning ceremony angered him and that his power is not diminished by it. We will see what else he plans to do. We are allowed 1 cup of grain for each person each day. I'm always hungry. I often think of the feast at Werawacamaco and wish I was there again. Richard and I dig up sassafras root to chew on to ease our hunger, and then we talk about food, trying to use our minds to fill our bellies. My mom used to make Yorkshire pudding at Christmas time, I say, with the crust just a little brown and loads of gravy. Richard closes his eyes imagining. And remember All Saints' Day at the orphanage, he asks, when we had stew with enough meat in it so everyone got some? We talk about the birds and the fish we roasted on Nevis, and I tell him again about the mounds of peas, squash, and venison at the Werawacamaco feast. Soon our jaws are tired from chewing on the sassafras roots, and for a time our bellies are fooled into thinking we've eaten. And then, one day, we have good news, or what seems like good news. 2 natives arrive to tell us that Chief Powhatan is ready to trade. He will give us food if we bring him what he wants. A grindstone, a rooster and a hen, copper, beads, 50 swords, several muskets, and workmen to build him an English-style house. He knows we are hungry enough that Captain Smith might well give him all he wants, including the weapons. President Smith rubs his forehead and says quietly, "We are desperate for the food." To the messengers in Algonquin, he says, "Tell Chief Powhatan we come. Give things he wants." But as the messengers walk away, he says in English, "Except the guns and swords. I will throw in some extra gifts instead." I smile. Watching the battle of wills between Captain Smith and Chief Powhatan is like watching the dance of a sword fight between 2 proud, powerful men. We load up 2 barges and the Discovery for the trip to Werawacamaco. We hope to bring all 3 of the vessels back laden with food. The first night we stop at the Wereskiak village and are welcomed as guests. Chief Sasenticum shares his pipe of tobacco with Captain Smith and shares some advice as well. I listen hard to understand the Algonquin words. "Chief Powhatan will treat you kindly, but do not trust him," he says. "He has sent for you only to slit your throats." Captain Smith does not seem surprised, and I realize he's already guessed that this might be a trap. "We keep guns ready," he says in his choppy Algonquin, and then he looks at me. "I leave boy with you?" he asks Chief Sasenticum. "I send messenger to him. If I dead, boy go to Jamestown. Tell others." This chills me to my bones. I want to object, to tell Captain Smith not to go. Why is he willingly walking into a trap? We're surviving on our grain, I want to tell him. Captain Newport will be back soon. Let us all return to Jamestown tomorrow and wait for the supply ship. But I don't say anything. It is not my place. Chief Sasenticum agrees. Captain Smith and the other men will go on to Werawacamaco in the morning. I will stay in the Wereskiak village and wait. If Captain Smith is killed, I will return to Jamestown to bring the news. The next morning, I watch the Discovery sail away with Captain Smith at her helm. I wonder if it will be the last time I see him. I push down sadness. I've already lost Reverend Hunt. I don't want to lose Captain Smith as well. I tell myself that he is wily and smart and will not easily fall into Chief Powhatan's trap. The Wereskiak village is a busy place, and I want to do my share of the work. But when I try to help, two girls with their pounding of corn and meal, Kainta, Chief Sesenticum's son, pulls me away. That work is for the women to do, he says. I will show you men's work. He takes me into the forest. There is a thin layer of snow on the dead leaves, and my feet crunch loudly on them. He stops and looks at me frowning. You are very loud, he says. He inspects my shoes. My mother will make you moccasins. He looks around, finds a sapling that seems to be just right for what he is searching for, and cuts it down with his hatchet. I will teach you how to make a bow and arrows, he says. Working with wood and stone is a good way to keep my mind off what might be happening to Captain Smith. Kainta teaches me how to peel the bark off the sapling, cut notches for the bowstring, and string it with strong gut. We make several arrow shafts from straight, thin wood. He shows me how to make an arrowhead, chipping a piece of rock until it's the right shape. It is a slow process, and I've ruined several pieces of rock before I get it right, but finally I'm able to make my first arrowhead. Then I tie it to a shaft and balance the shaft with feathers so that it will shoot straight. When we grow hungry, we go to the communal cook fire. There we find a large clay pot filled with hominy and venison stew, fish on the grill, and bread baking in the hot ashes on the ground. Eat, says Kainta. He tears off a piece of bread and uses an oyster shell to scoop stew right out of the pot. I do the same. It is delicious. This is what I've seen people do all day, just come up to the pot and take what they want to eat. I realize that they have no meal times, no rationing of food, and I think that these Powhatan people must be the wealthiest people in the world. A young woman comes to put a new loaf of bread in the ashes and to stir the pot of stew. She wears a kind of apron made of deerskin that hangs down to her knees. Her arms, face, and legs have colorful tattoos of patterns, flowers, fruits, and snakes. Her black hair is plaited into one long braid hanging down to her hips. She smiles shyly at me. How strange I must look to her in my English clothes. No messenger comes that day, or the next. I don't know if this is good news or bad. I have no choice but to wait. At sunrise, I go with Kainta down to the river where he bathes in the frigid water. I stay, shivering, on the shore. Kainta sprinkles a bit of tobacco on the river, closes his eyes, and lifts his hands, and I know he is praying. This is what Namontack did each morning when he lived with us in Jamestown. The days go by, and I learn more about men's work, which is mostly about hunting and fishing. I'm also careful to learn which chores are women's work so that I will not embarrass myself again by trying to do any of it. Planting, weeding, harvesting, making clay pots, cooking, making clothes, it is all for the girls and the women to do. Kainta teaches me how to make a knife by chipping a piece of rock until it is sharp, and then tying it with gut onto a short stick. He gives me a buckskin pouch and shows me how to hang it from my waist with a leather strap. My knife fits nicely inside. I continue to make my arrows, chipping the arrowheads and tying the feathers, until I have enough to go hunting. Kainta shows me how to weave a case so that I can carry my arrows on my back. He has me practice with my bow and arrows and a target until I can shoot straight. It snows. Kainta says this will make hunting even easier because we will see the animals' tracks in the snow. I have my new moccasins, and I walk carefully, heel to toe, the way he has shown me, trying to be as silent as he is. I'm concentrating so hard that at first I do not notice someone else who has been walking quietly in the forest. Then suddenly I look up and see him. Namontack! I cry out. I'm very glad to see him. And then, when I realize why he has come, I'm filled with fear. He is the messenger from Werewakamako. I stand, gripping my bow, waiting for the bad news. Namontack smiles. Do not look so worried, Samuel. Your master sends good wishes. I groan with relief, and then I'm confused. Why have you come, and not Captain Smith? I ask him in English. He answers me in Algonquin. I am in his world now. Captain Smith says you will stay with the Wereskiaks through the winter. You will learn more of the language and eat well. Kainta joins us. He and Namontack exchange the greeting of countrymen with one fist. Each taps first his own chest, and then forehead, and then taps the other boy's chest and forehead. Come, says Kainta, you must be hungry after your journey. We will hunt later. We sit with Namontauk at the communal cook fire as he eats. I form my question in Algonquin. Chief Powhatan make trap? I ask him. Now that I have heard the good news, I'm ready to hear the whole story. Yes, Namontauk says, but your werewant's as quick as a rabbit. The trap did not catch him, he grins. He likes Captain Smith as much as I do. In between mouthfuls, Namontauk tells us what happened. Captain Smith and his men arrived in Werowocomoco and retreated kindly. They traded for lots of corn. But by the time their boats were loaded up, the tide was out and the boats couldn't move. They had to spend the night in Werowocomoco, staying in one of the houses. Just after dark, Captain Smith heard a sound at the door. It was Pocahontas. Her eyes were wide with terror. You must go, she said. In a little while my father's men will bring you food. As soon as you put your weapons down and begin to eat, they will slit your throats with your own swords. And if they don't succeed, there will be a bigger attack later. She begged them to leave right away. She was crying. She knew that if she was caught warning Captain Smith, her father would have her put to death. She may have been play acting the first time, I think, but this time she really did risk her life to save Captain Smith. The tide was still too low for them to leave. Within an hour, 10 strong warriors with platters of food, just like Pocahontas had said they would, came. The warriors said the slow matches on the Englishmen's guns were smoking up the room, making them sick, and they should put them out. But Captain Smith just said, "Oh, we don't mind the smoke." And then he made the warriors taste all of the food to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Captain Smith and his men ate their supper with their guns smoldering and ready. And later, big attack? I ask. Now Namontauk tells us how the Englishmen kept up a guard half the night, standing with their muskets ready. There never was an attack. At midnight, the tide had risen enough to move the boats, and they left. So Captain Smith and his men are safe, and they've taken corn back to Jamestown. Thank you. Good news, I say to Namontauk. It has begun to snow again, and Namontauk is invited to stay the night. He sleeps in the family house with Kinta and me. The next day, the three of us go hunting. We walk quietly through the white forest, stalking rabbits. We see one. Even I've been quiet enough not to startle it. Kinta and Namontauk both look at me. They want me to shoot, to have a chance to make my first kill. Silently, I pull out an arrow and string it on my bow. I make my breath even and slow so that it will not affect my shot. I watch the rabbit as it hops along the undergrowth, looking for food. I pull back the bowstring and aim, and then I let the arrow fly. There is a whoosh and a thud. The arrow hits its mark. The hare lies still. Blood seeps out where my arrow has entered its side, staining the snow bright red. Kinta claps me on the back. You have learned well, he says. I'm still amazed at what I've done. Go take your prize and give thanks to the god Okius for your meat, says Namontauk. I tie the rabbit's hind feet to a piece of gut and hang it around my waist. We hunt some more, and the other two boys also get rabbits. The winter day is short. When the sun sinks down, casting long shadows over glittering snow, it's time to return to the village. I use my knife to cut open the rabbit's abdomen and clean out its entrails, and to peel the rabbit's skin away from my meat. My rabbit, which I have killed myself with a weapon I made myself, becomes part of the communal stew that evening. It makes me feel proud and strong. Namontauk goes home to Werowocomoco, and I stay at the Weroskiok village, as Captain Smith has prescribed. Kinta and I do more hunting. He shakes his head when he sees me trying to keep my hair, which is getting quite long, out of my way. He asks his mother to cut my hair for me. She takes 2 mussel shells and grates away the hair on the right side of my head down to the scalp. It pinches and pulls, but I keep still. On the left side she leaves it long, and she cuts a ridge of short hair down the middle of my head, so that my hair looks very much like the other men and boys. There, says Kinta. Now it will not get caught in your bowstring. When the winds of February blow cold, I wear a mantle of deerskin. During the March thaw, I kill my first wild turkey. Kinta ties 2 of its feathers into the long side of my hair. In late April, when the mosquitoes, flies, and gnats come out, Kinta shows me how a layer of bear grease mixed with a powder of red puccoon root keeps the bugs away. It also makes my skin red. I no longer look very much like an English boy. One day, we boys are playing a game that is much like English football. We have a goal at each end of a field, and we kick a ball made of skins, trying to score by kicking the ball into the other team's goal. I have finally gotten tired of sweating in my slops and long sleeved shirt during these games, and I have let Kinta's sister make me a bucket